Thank you. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and get started?
So our goal here was to reduce the views to something that had a sufficient balance of noise to signal. What I've done is gone through all the jobs that are currently supported Jenkins site. Notice the bottom screens are each different sheets with SD-RAN, SD Core, SD Fabric, Aether Rock, Aether QA, and CI Infra, as well as unknown. What I've done is done a quick throw up of the LURL is the last build. This is as of Tuesday, so it's a little behind the date, but not too much. And the last good URL. You'll notice that in many cases, the last and the good are the same number. This is good. That means the last time it ran, it passed. However, you'll notice the date is, almost 2 years ago, or over 2 years ago in some cases. So what I've done is try and divide the jobs up into projects, and then the jobs further march into these kind of pinkish ones that are old enough and haven't been run recently enough that I question whether or not we care anymore. We have yellows, which were run fairly recently, as in during 2022 and basically during 2022, but have not been run recently, as in the past year. And then greens are anything that has been successfully run in the past year. And what I would like people to do, if they have the time, is to find their area of expertise, and just over here on action, tell me what I should do if you have any insight. I've left 3 options. Delete it. We don't care. Throw it away. Do whatever. Keep pass. We want to run them. We want to run them regularly or as needed. And if they ever fail, we want them to pass.
And keep future
is basically these yellow ones, which is we want to keep them, but we don't care right now whether they pass yet, but we will. These are just roughly guesses.
I could see that being just a little bit more indeterminate on the future part of it. It's almost a table, although I'd hate to table too much.
Agreed. I'm happy to use a different algorithm. Right now, I'm just doing purely time. If people can provide a better one, I'm happy to use it.
Yeah, that's fine. I think, yeah.
Yeah. The goal, but though, is if people who have the object come in and select what they think a particular test should be. And I'll give it about a week or 2, and then I'll start remaking the Jenkins filters to go up. Feel free to pass this link on to any goal. If there's any generic notes, just put them aside here in the notes column. Far right. Again, I'm not asking anybody to do the whole thing. Pick your area of expertise, pick a particular color. Do you care about old ones? Yes, double check them then. Do you only want to make sure that the ones we're paying attention to get processed? Look at the ones that are currently green and decide whether or not we really do want to keep them.
Could you click on Aether just for a second, just to see how that one spreads? Okay, thanks. Yep. So it's red at the bottom and red at the top, right?
Right. The red at the top is the last time they were run. It was a long time ago. And the ones at the bottom basically were never run. They were created, but nobody ever ran them.
Got it. Thanks.
There is one tab of unknown that didn't quite feel like they belonged anywhere else. So if people want to look at those, fine. Otherwise, I'll make a guess. There is a tab here on details, which is basically just a sum. Ignore that completely, please.
So my guidance to everyone would be to be aggressive on this. Don't assume, well, someone else knows better. If you know anything, we'll take it.
And the link to this, has this been sent out already, or is it coming out?
It was sent out on the Aether TST channel. Everyone should see it.
Can you post it here?
I put it in the chat. If people could just double check that they can see it.
Yeah, I
And
got it.
ideally make a modification. Like I say, I'll give it at least a week, if not two, but take a look at it or pass it on to those you feel could also be helpful. At least that'll make our view more precise and more usable.
So tests that are marked as manual, if I'm remembering back those ones, I'm just looking at some of the rock ones. Those ones were manual versions of the automated tests that people would run as necessary.
That
Do
is
we
my
care about
belief. I can't
manual
guarantee that.
tests? I guess my question is, do we want to keep manual tests around for this effort?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The manual tests, do we want to preserve manual tests, or do we only want to move forward with things that are automated?
You
So,
tell me.
Scott,
I would presume you keep them.
Oh, it's up to me to decide. Okay. I'll think about it.
Scott, you prefaced your comment by saying that the manual ones had an automated counterpart.
I think so. I mean, I'm having to, remember back a couple years. Yeah, I guess I could look and see, like I see, in either Rock API 3.0.0 tests manual, and then an automatic one as well. And maybe it's not surprising that the manual ones haven't run in a long time. Well, I guess I actually see multiple manual. There's just a lot here. I wish we'd have documented this when we left what all these things were, but we didn't.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall too, and I think you're right, Scott, that the way that the old QA team liked to organize things is there were like automated kind of nightly tests that were run. But if you wanted to like rerun one of the nightly tests in a different configuration to say check on something, that wasn't allowed. You weren't allowed to like modify
Yeah.
the test job and then rerun that, because then that was going to mess with the statistics that they were keeping about like success and failure of the nightly jobs. So there was a equivalent job that had manual in the title. That was the one you were supposed to use to do your own like, testing of a new package or something like that. So since we're not doing that anymore, I would guess that we could just get rid of all those manual jobs.
Well, if nothing else, it maybe roughly halves the number that we have to deal with. Even if they stayed there, we now have a category for them and we understand what they're for and whether we have to worry about them or not.
I just assume keep them because it allows you to test locally before you really build. But
well, you can test with the automated one. It was just
well,
that
the automated test will get them. That's true. Anyway, I like manual tests available.
Yeah,
but it does mean that you maintain.
I would also suggest to keep them. It would help QA team to run them manually, or maybe take a reference of it and create some GUI or API test using them.
Yeah, and my other point was that that these manual tests showing up as red or yellow based on lack of use, if that's part of the basis of this, that's not surprising because there's been nobody to run them. So if we haven't run something in like a year and a half, 2 years, it's like I say, it's not surprising if it's manual test.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a judgment call. It's just I had to pick a way, so that's why I'm asking for help deciding what to keep and where to put them. Any other questions? Right.
all right. So
Thank you.
that's
Yes.
sorry, go ahead.
I'm done.
Someone else might have, I think, was about to say something there. I'm not sure. Okay, so you stop screen sharing. I'll go ahead and screen share the notes. Second. So I don't know who, I just noticed here, Poseidon Services. Is that someone on the call? I thought I had invited someone to the TST call, who I don't see here. Andrew, you're not here, right? Which is unfortunate. I thought I had extended in the calendar invitation to him, but it actually raises a point that I'm a little bit confused about the calendar. That there is a public TST calendar, right?
There is, they could have gotten just a time wrong.
Well, I had exchanged a little email with Michelle trying to clear that up because I saw the change of time to 10 o'clock change on an invite that was explicitly sent to a set of recipients, but it did not change on what appeared to be the public calendar. And I didn't go back to check to see if that got fixed. Let me just make note for the sake of whoever Poseidon Services is. Okay, I'll just make note of that and try to fix that by next time. Okay, on-ramp. It's now up. Well, I'm trying to combine a little bit with the Aether guide, but that's getting ahead of myself. So on-ramp is now part of the Aether guide. There are a couple friendlies. The GS Lab folks have tried to install it and made good progress. But I've gotten a little feedback. It all works when either Bilal or I do it, but when someone else does it, of course, there's some built-in assumptions we're trying to shake out. So if anyone wants to give it a shot, that would be great. Just the quick start version of it. It is running in the Tucson lab with physical G-Node Bs, and it's been running solidly for about a week now. So that's good. So on to the guide. I just called attention to it because I wanted to have a little discussion. So on-ramp is now here as a place as an entry point. What's worth saying here? There is a quick start that is roughly equivalent to Ether in a box. It just starts everything up pretty low overhead on one server. But most of the time it lets you run either the emulator or the physical G-Node Bs up in a not inside of the Kubernetes cluster, so in a separate VM/machine. And that allows you to scale. One note here on the physical G-Node B, this is purposely very much 5G biased, with a little note at the end that if you wanted to run it on eNode Bs, because for legacy, that's what you had in your lab, then that's fine, and it does work as well, but it's really geared towards 5G. So my question is, this is the next item on the agenda, is, are there things in the Aether guide that we might want to prune? And just as a generic overview statement, everything having to do with the production deployment is really about, the Aether running at Stanford, Princeton, Cornell, that was in support of the Pronto project. It's how to bring up an edge site in that deployment scenario, which could be confusing to people who just who I think is the majority of our users, which are downloading it and trying to bring Aether up on their own. So I'm not sure quite how to deal with that, because there's a bunch of useful information in here. So we certainly wouldn't want to throw it away, but I just wondered if anyone had any thoughts on, like the Fabric switch. We're not supporting the Fabric going forward. So what do we do with with all of this stuff in here. Anyone have any thoughts on that?
So I guess the guide has different versions, right?
That's true.
So hopefully, like, if we publish the latest version of the guide that took all that stuff out because it was no longer relevant, still maybe even on this same website, you could just select a previous version and go back in time to the point where, you know, we were doing that. And so, you know, it wouldn't be, I don't want to see it get completely lost. And we might even want to occasionally point people to the troubleshooting parts at some point, but yeah, maybe not having it quite so prominent would be a good idea.
Okay, so that's a perfect answer. It hadn't occurred to me. So master, and I recognize that I'm likely the one most aggressively doing this because you all are, you know, have other things to do. So I'm going to not just brute force do it, but I'm going to start selectively getting rid of some stuff that I think might be more confusing than anything else. And then I'll do that in master, and we'll keep the 2.1 release, which whoops, I don't want there. The 2.1 release, which looks like it has, you know, it was everything until just recently. Is that okay with everyone?
Works for me.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Okay. I'll start, I mean, like I said, I'm not going to do it overnight, but I'll start thinking about it that way. Okay, back to the agenda. Which is right here. Where was that? Okay. So start pruning, master. Older version's still there. Okay, QA reports.
Yeah, I'll take this up. This is Kunal. So regarding SD Core version 1.3 test automation, we are facing a few issues on in the framework side. So we are fixing them, and we will be committing our code once we will have a dedicated branch for SD Core 1.3. So we are in discussion with DAF regarding the same, and so DAF would be helping us in creating a new branch on the Gerrit, and we will commit all our code into it. And we have planned to do a CD using that and integrate into our jobs. So the automation would be triggered using those jobs.
Okay, and are you able to say anything about the stability of 1.3?
Yeah, we have raised a few bugs. 14 bugs are were reported earlier. So those were earlier. I mean, those were reported during the SD Core version 1.3 manual test. So for test automation, we have we do not have a suite, so that's why we did not run any automation tests.
So encountered and reported some bugs.
Yeah.
But not, I don't know what to say, automated systematically.
Right.
I raised that because Purdue, who pounds on the core very hard, was seeing stability problems with, and I'm going to refer to it as 0.12.8, which is 1.3. So they have gone back to 0, 12, 6. That's the Helm chart number. Yeah, so that's and they've been reporting bugs to the core team as well. So I don't know what kind of claims we can make about the stability right now, and I was looking, I don't think we have anyone on from the SD core team, but maybe I'm mistaken.
Yeah, Larry, we had a meeting with Purdue yesterday and GSH question. I mean, they mentioned, so I don't know which version, but they mentioned that the version they use right now, seems to be fairly stable. There are a lot of, there are scalability issues, right? That, Bilal is working on regarding the UDM, right? But I don't know if it's 0.12.8 or 0.12.6.
It's actually beyond 12.8. I think it's master. I think
Okay.
the HPA work is being done on master, I believe.
Okay. So they have found, quite some bugs, right? They have
Well,
fixed issues.
wait a minute.
Yeah.
It might be 12.8, but it's. I actually am not positive, but it's distinct.
Yeah.
How to say this? This is just a cop out. Then it's a set of parameters that you can set. So I don't think it affects everybody else. You can turn it on or off. But it's even with it turned off, 12.8 still had some problems.
Okay.
Larry, you said that Purdue was reporting bugs. Are those going into the community?
Yeah, they're going back directly to AJ.
Hmm.
And I don't know that they have reported any recently, but they have been going back to AJ, but it's a good point. Okay, back to QA status hardware configurations.
Yeah. Yes, Pritham,
Okay.
please go ahead.
This is Pritham. Actually, we were able to configure Inode B and Gnode B, what we got from what we got, and those we means and those devices are able to radiate the PLMN ID. Those we tested on personal phones. And we are about to procure the phones, and that's what Larry, I think I mailed you and Daf as also for the suggestion of any means phone models, if you can suggest to us.
Yeah, so
dongles.
I'm showing what we are describing to people as the Aether starter kit. Let me post this to the channel here somehow, chat. This is what are telling people that are interested in deploying. This is 5G starter kit, but when it comes right down to it, actually the dongle, there's a separate 4G dongle. The SIM writer, I guess this is not what you're talking about, though. You need the devices. So
yes.
Pixel 4 or the Moto G 5G are what we're using. I've got running in the other room. There is a separate 4G dongle.
Well, the 4G dongle we've been using is discontinued from Circom.
Yeah, that one.
So that's not listed.
Yeah, so this is very much 5G focused, which if we shift that way, I think it's fine.
Okay.
And then there's the comment at the bottom where there's indication that iPhones are being supported, but I don't know that anybody has reported back trying this with Ether yet.
Yeah,
For 5G also, you know, we have been using OnePlus with the OAI radio, right? I don't know if you consider also the OAI radio, I mean, with the USRP and the OAI soft radio and the 5G OnePlus phone, right?
I
That's
would
the same.
love to have that OAI radio integrated into on-ramp.
Mhm.
I mean, it's one thing to go buy a Pixel 4. It's a whole lot harder. Well, so
Yeah.
you're doing, that's the radio you're talking about.
Yeah, the radio, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got both UEs and radios here. This is
Right.
So
So
I'd love to have that radio, OAI radio included.
as UE, we have used with the OAI radio, we have used the OnePlus phone, right?
What is it?
Sorry, it's 1+8, right?
OnePlus, the phone. Let's see. I got the box here. Yeah, OnePlus. You know, let me write in the chat.
And that's just that's an Android phone by the company
Yes.
OnePlus.
Yeah, it's an Android phone. I think it's based in China. And that's the one we use. Yeah, it's an Android phone, right? OnePlus Nord.
So you don't have a 5G dongle, do you, Christian?
We just received 5G dongles, 5G modem that NEU sent. I don't know the name here, or the version number, but I can provide you the information. Yeah.
I would really like to hear what that is because we're stumped on that.
Yeah. So they use this again with the OAI radio, right? With the USRP and the OAI soft radio, and they have this 5G dongle which we just received and we're gonna install. But they use it at NEU at Northeastern.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll send you the information.
that would be great. So back to the GS Labs, does a Google Pixel 4 work for you as just a way to test it? It's obviously not automated.
Okay, we can try. We'll think on that.
I mean,
Pixel 4, yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's helpful is the dongle is going to be really useful in terms of automating this. That's where I'd like to get to, but not quite there yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm basically running, what did we used to call it? Well, it's a soak test. I just leave it running and see how long it'll run before it crashes. Okay, ONF nightly build.
For this, Larry, as you know that manually we are testing this a new Aether RAM. Once we'll get proper running, what we can say that everything is running properly, then we'll make that as a job over Jenkins.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did encounter a glitch last night. Well, for me last night, for you today, earlier today.
Yes.
We're debugging, but the process went okay up to that point.
Yeah, once it get fixed, then I will run it as a job on Jenkins.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Can you run it would be ideal to run a 2-node test, which I'll just describe as SD core on one server and GNB SIM on a second.
Okay, it's kind that one as a server and one as a worker node, like that,
Well, so if you look at the host inventory file, it clearly spells it out. So technically, there is one master node and one worker node, and the worker node is assigned not to Kubernetes, but is assigned to, is exactly the same as the GNB SIM node.
Okay.
I,
Yeah, tomorrow I will try out that.
just to. Just to be clear on that.
Yeah.
It'd be two nodes here.
Mhm.
One of them's master.
Yeah.
One of them's worker, and that node 2 is worker, and this would be node 2 down here.
Yeah, sure. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone on this? I don't think we have any SD core people, but maybe I missed that. Sean and Scott, anything on Rock?
I don't think I have anything new. Do you, Sean, have anything new?
No, Scott, no, sorry, Larry, I haven't that thing.
All right.
So Larry, are you aware? I mean, it seems like we haven't been hearing a lot about Rock critical stability problems and such that we had, a few months ago. Has
aware
it
of
been
that.
mostly smooth sailing for you lately?
For me, it has been. I haven't really been stressing it myself too much, and I've not heard any other.
Okay, good.
Anyone else?
I mean, we know we have issues outstanding. 3666, I think, is the big one. It's really just trying to find the time. And Al, I think, is keeping a tally.
You're coming across a little bit quiet, Sean. I heard
Oh.
three.
Sorry, Scott, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I hear you. But I just turned up my headset. Maybe it was me. I heard
No.
3666.
Yeah. There's a few issues out there for Rock that we haven't had time to address. I know Canal is keeping a list and he's got them in Jira, so we haven't forgotten about them. But as you know, the pressure of time is not in his favor.
Yeah.
Okay, and just to end the call on a happy note, ESNet, who you may know, runs the high-speed backbone for the Department of Energy, connecting a bunch of the national labs. A lot of their researchers now have quote unquote field work at the edges, where they are starting to look very carefully at 5G support. And they're looking at a range of possibilities there, including what you can get from established vendors and carriers like Verizon and so on. But they are very much interested in being able to own that. And so we're exploring, a concrete proof of concept. And it looks like a really nice match for what we're trying to do with in terms of getting some proof of concepts up and running. Anyone else have anything to add?
Yeah, that would be great, Larry. Talk with ESNet previously also, they were very interested in, very, very high throughput when they send this data set across their labs, right? In the 10 of gigabit of data. So here it's some type of usage model with lower rate at the edge of the network.
Yeah. So this is ESNet is, when I hear ESNet, I immediately think, how many lambdas can they turn on? That's kind of been their mantra.
Okay, yeah.
I call it field work. They call it field work. So it sounded like a really great match. So just a second point, I also had a conversation very much like that with the Purdue Research Foundation, who we've heard from here. They also are trying to do exactly that. And we are keeping our eyes open for a concrete use case. The nice thing about the ESNet is they have edge points all over the country, probably the world. And so they're not constrained by, well, what are we doing with the spectrum in this 2 square mile location? They've got those locations all over the place. And so I think there might be more opportunity there.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
All
Hey,
right.
if we're done with that topic, Larry, I guess I'd just like to throw out a thought, which is that, what do we do about SD-RAN and representing SD-RAN here? Is there a place for it or not? Everybody here, just as a quick status update, is there's a fair amount of activity going on the SD-RAN front. It's still in the big picture, plugs in with Aether and all the 5G work. There's a bunch of, there's some work going on with Intel Labs that Christian's very familiar with and actually running, but there's also some work going on with some others towards kind of a use case demonstration at Fuse in October. There's a bunch of kind of grant activity that's really picking up. And
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So without getting into more detail, is there a place for it here or not? Can we fire up something, in parallel?
I think there is. You could make the same case for Core. They are both projects that have a wealth of interesting things going on that we very much want to be abreast of and contributing to. I don't know if you want to call it a working group of the Aether TST or whatever. It'd be great if we had at least that kind of connection. The thing that for me, I would really like to see, and I think it's a modest step, the option of bringing up SD with it or in Aether as part of Aether, as opposed to standalone. We are really close to be able to do that. The real question is how end to end it would be, and what is the actual radio on the other side that the RIC is managing. OAI is one option. Sort of throw this back at Christian. There is Intel work that was end-to-end connecting SD-RAN with the ONOS RIC back into Aether as part of the final Pronto demonstration. But there's some piece of that has not been checked, that has not yet been turned back into open source, and it may never be unless we take action to do it.
Yeah. On our side, now you mentioned OAI, right? So with the Navy work, we're using the ONF RIC and XApp on the ONF RIC connected to the OAI radio to control slicing.
Right. So you and I can have another conversation to try to sort out if that's the same or if there's two different things. It'd be great to get the
OAI with ONF, 5G. So OAI 5G with the ONF RIC. Yeah, we have it integrated. We have it up and running.
Yeah, it would be. That is exactly what I'd like.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two steps. One is bringing up the RIC as a workload on Aether, and the step has already been taken that the RIC now comes up on RKE2, which was a prereq. So that's now done. The next step is, and then it's controlling what? And if it's controlling an OAI radio, that would be perfect. So we should take that as an action item. And I don't know how easy or hard that would be, but it'd be great if we could do it. So back to your big point, Timon, I think if in my mind, if we had that connection so that we we would have a pretty strong case for including SD-RAN in the Aether discussion and giving it a home if it needed one.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I agree. And so I think we should start to take some steps in that direction. And maybe the most expeditious way to do that is to kind of bring Surat in here, kind of representing SD-RAN, perhaps.
Yeah, that would be a good start.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else? All right, thanks, everybody. See you again next week. And go take a look at that spreadsheet and help us prune it.
Yeah. Bye. Good night.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye all.
Bye.